About, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, I think it was in the spring, some good friends of mine that I've known since high school and are really dear to me, and I have a group of friends that I've known for a long time, and they've been really key for me in my priesthood in terms of me getting to watch them with their families and their children and so forth, and their marriages. And one of them invited me to, it was my day off on Friday, and hey, we're going to have a bonfire tonight. And at first I was like, yeah, that'd be great, I'll be there. And but then it actually kind of started to sprinkle and stuff and rain that afternoon. And I knew that they were still going to get together, and there was a part of me that really wanted to do that. But I was also like, at the same time, I was in the middle of watching this TV show that I had gotten in. Sometimes you get involved in a series and you kind of, you get addicted, so to speak. And so it was like, well, it's my day off and I kind of want to watch another episode, so I'll just not go, and I'll tell them it's because it was raining. And so I kind of wimped out, and I sent them a text, yeah, sorry, I can't make it. I figured, it's with the rain and stuff. But they're like, well, we're still going to meet inside. We weren't really, they didn't say this, but it was kind of like, well, we're not really getting together to watch things burn. I mean, we're getting together to hang out. But anyways, long story short, I've been really mad at myself and disappointed at myself because I wimped out, and I took kind of the lazy route. I just for lack of a better thing, I kind of avoided interaction with human beings to watch electrons on a screen instead. And these are people, again, who are really close to me, and I enjoy every moment that I get to spend with them. And I was thinking that the reason I bring that up, Jesus is talking today about how we have to love our neighbor as ourselves. And I was thinking about how, I don't know the names of my neighbors. I don't know any of them. And I was really kind of disappointed in that, and recognized, we live in this really interesting time where it seems like human interaction is happening less and less. We avoid each other. We don't interact nearly as much as our ancestors and most of the human beings that have lived on the earth. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with technology. And there's nothing inherently wrong with technology. It's a lot of great things happen. We can live longer and so forth, and there's nothing wrong with entertainment. It's whatever other things that we do, but with technology. But the problem is, I think, a lot of times how we use it and how it gets us to avoid one another. How it gets us to avoid human interaction sometimes, and avoid getting to know each other. There's an author, Alduos Huxley, who wrote the book A Brave New World, which was written, I think, in the 1960s, and it was kind of predicting what it would be like in the 2000s with technology and how it would sort of dominate the world. And in a lot of ways, his predictions are coming true. But he said, the interesting thing about a technological dictatorship is that it's a dictatorship that no one will ever want to overthrow. So that's really interesting. A lot of the other dictatorships, people are like, oh, you won't rule me and you won't control me. And most dictatorships throughout history have been overthrown eventually. Whereas this dictatorship of technology, where we crave technology and we actually prefer it to interaction with human beings, people will never cast that off a lot of times. And his prediction, I think, is coming true. I think that the sad thing about it, and I think the reason that Jesus is getting us to think about our neighbors and our fellow human beings, is because if you think about the person sitting next to you in the pew right now, that person has infinite depth to them, is a miracle of creation, and you can glimpse God in the other person, the person that's sitting next to you. And yet so often we prefer to avoid one another. We don't want that anymore. We have other things that seem shinier, that seem fancier, and we're just like, I don't really want to deal with that person. I don't want to deal with people in general, and so we avoid that, and we become more and more isolated. Sometimes if I'm out at night or walking around, or I sit out on the porch every now and then, and it's just, there's no one out. Everyone's inside, no one's interacting with each other. You talk to priests or other people at churches, and it's, if you try to put on a program at church, you might get 10 people that would show up. Hey, we're going to have a dinner, we're going to have a talk, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. No one comes. And I'm not saying that, I'm not shaming anyone, that I wouldn't go. I was thinking about my dad when we were growing up. we hardly went, there's a lot of times it was like, we're just going to stick around here, and hang out at home. And I see that more and more in myself. I think, again, we avoid the interaction because we think of it as being, as being difficult. We just, I don't really want to deal with people. But I think Jesus is trying to call us out of ourselves and getting us and inviting us to encounter our neighbor, and to get to know our neighbor and to recognize who they are. There's always, I think, in the short term, again, we think of, getting together with people or those kind of things, or that party or this interaction with other people. In the short term, it seems like it's going to take more work. It's harder to be around people. But I was even thinking, like last night, we had a parish gathering at Parish Oktoberfest at St. Paul's. And there was a part of me yesterday afternoon that was, man, I wish I could just come home and watch college football instead of going to this parish festival, right? But I knew at the same time that was me being the temptation to be lazy and to just simply avoid people. And whereas I knew that when I went, I would actually, afterwards, I would be glad that I went. And I would be like, oh, that was great. And I got to see people and talk and have conversations with people and so forth. And it's a really good thing. And it was. It was great. I left there energized. I was glad I went. Of course, it was a great evening and we got to interact with each other. And I didn't miss anything with, the TV that I was like, oh, it'd be great to just come home and crash. I think the devil is trying to isolate us and continue to get us to avoid each other more and more and more. And ideally, for the devil, we would all be individual capsules who would need nothing from other people and not get to know anyone else and not have any interaction with each other. But I think God and Christ are calling us to encounter, again, our neighbor. Who is this person that's next to me? Who is this person that lives next door to me? Who are these people that I interact with at work? Not just people to be avoided. And so I just invite you to think about those opportunities where God is inviting you to human communion with each other, to get to know and to be around and to be in the presence of another person. And I challenge you to just look past the other temptations that we have, the ways that we can get out of that, the ways that we can avoid each other so easily anymore, and to overcome that and to make conscious efforts to encounter the people in this community, to encounter the people in our larger community, and to just simply recognize the infinite beauty and wisdom and amazing awesomeness that is another person, and to instead seek communion with that person. That is the kind of love for our neighbor, I think, that Jesus is calling us to. And so may we avoid those temptations and those shortcuts and ways that we can avoid one another, and instead seek to encounter the power of God that exists in each person that we encounter every day of our life.